I got to get him this special song. I hope he knows what it is. There you
yes.
go. There you
Yes.
go.
Yes.
I'm glad you know it, Doug. How are you?
Not from Aberdeen like Brian Danielson,
No.
but I am from I was born in Edmonds, Washington. But yes,
Yeah.
Brian Danielson, Daniel Bryan, whatever you want to call him these days. But yeah, absolutely.
He'll always be Daniel Bryan to me.
I've been doing well. It's been a crazy time. We're fast week here this week. Saturday game. Who knew that the Patriots, a national audience would want to watch the Patriots? But when you got the Chargers on the schedule, I guess that's what happens. But yeah, it's been a fun week here, fun season.
Doug,
so
don't
far.
you want to relive that incredible game from last year, 6-0, special teams playing a part in that game?
Man, I know it's. I guess the NFL really wanted to see a repeat of that this year. It's funny because last week's Patriots game also was flexed to the 425 range. I know you guys out in California didn't have to watch it, but most of the country had to watch the Patriots last week. I think that after these last 2 weeks, the national audience will never want to see the Patriots again.
But I mean, don't you think that if there was like, how do I want to put this? He seems. I was speaking about Drake Maye. He seems like a kind of carbon copy of Justin Herbert in the sense, like you hear him talk. I remember during the draft stuff, I was driving and I heard Rich Eisen cut into audio from Drake Maye, and I'm like, is he talking to Justin Herbert? Like it sounded exactly the same. But what's it been like this year covering new head coach? Bill's no longer there. It's Jerod Mayo, Drake Maye, new quarterback. At first, it wasn't him starting, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, throw him in there." And I thought he's actually played pretty decent. I mean, the weapons there aren't as good. But what has the season been like for you?
It's definitely been a lot different. And no, I mean, I can understand why a national audience would want to watch Drake Maye. He's been great so far. He certainly made some rookie mistakes and everything like that, but really exciting player. Deceptively fast. Like I'm not just saying, like he's legitimately fast. He beats guys to the edge. Really great accuracy so far too. He's like, I think he's pretty close to, if he finishes the season around the same completion percentage, like breaking completion percentage records for a rookie. Pretty similar makeup to Justin Herbert, like you were saying, where like he actually compared himself to Justin Herbert this week, saying that personality wise, not the most like fiery, energetic guy, but a good leader. Obviously, mobility, accuracy, big arm. Those are all things that Justin Herbert has. I would say that Drake Maye might be like a little bit faster than Herbert, but he also makes more mistakes than Herbert. So it's like that kind of give and take right there with those two guys. But yeah, definitely been a lot different. Drake May's been great to cover. Jerod Mayo has been a lot different than Bill. A lot of mistakes in the media that he's actually made. He's had to walk back a ton of comments this year. And now, because there were so many instances of that, now he's kind of like been a little bit less transparent. And now he's being a little bit more like Bill Belichick, which, it's a little bit of a tough pill to swallow for us, but it's probably better for the team that he's not saying everything on his mind that he has to walk back a day later.
It feels like when Brandon Staley first got to the Chargers, he would tell us like, yeah, this weekend so-and-so is going. Oh yeah, this weekend so-and-so. Like he would tell us exactly who's going to play. Like if somebody was questionable, he'd be like, oh yeah, Dan's going to play. Oh, Doug, yeah, Doug's going to go this weekend. And you're like, oh wow, okay. And then year two, it's like he reined that in and he's like, well, we'll see what happens this weekend and stuff like that. And I mean, as a reporter, you appreciate it, but as like a tactician, you're kind of like, why? Like with Harbaugh, exactly what you're going to get. He's like, oh, questionable. And then you come in and you have to wait until an hour and a half before the game to really find out if that guy's going to go. So that's definitely been, I completely agree with what your analysis is so far.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, he was pretty transparent about injuries early on, like saying like, oh, this guy's definitely going to play this week. We're going to see more of this guy this week. That scaled down. But then there was also a comment earlier in the season when he called his team soft after a loss. Yeah. After that, then he tried to walk that back by saying like, no, they're just playing soft. And it's like, you can't really put the toothpaste back in the tube after that one. There's been a couple other instances like that where like after losses, like the other team will have like a 60-yard touchdown run or something like that. And like the day after a loss, you'll be like, well, if you take out that 60-yard run, then the run defense looks a lot better. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, if you take out all the good plays, then you guys are undefeated. So like he was just doing that way too much. And now, like I said, he's definitely gotten a lot more boring, but all in all, it's probably better for the team. And fans were really getting sick of Mayo saying all these things and having to walk it back. So I think it's probably better for the fan base as well.
I was gonna say also started doing the we're on yep.
On to Los Angeles. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, that's what I'm waiting for. But I was gonna say it's good to see that Drake Maye set the standard high and he has a good hero to look up to like Justin Herbert. Because let me tell you something, the son of Odin, there's one of one, baby. There's no copies over here. But I was gonna say really like my biggest question to you, and I know like the Patriots aren't doing too well, no offense to anybody out there, but like I'm super curious really just what has it been like? You go from covering an absolute legend in and of itself, if you believe the myths, the rumors, and everything else in Bill Belichick, you've seen the peak and now you're kind of seeing the valley. Like what's been the difference? What's been like the biggest difference you'd say between Bill Belichick running the team and Jerod Mayo running the team, if there is a difference?
I would say that there's definitely a lot of noticeable differences. One of the key ones is like Bill Belichick comes with 50 years of experience. So I feel like you could ask him basically like any football question and he's right on it. He can give you like an expert opinion on a wide receiver, a long snapper, guard, a defensive end, whatever it is. Jerod Mayo has only been coaching for 5 years. He played for like 7 or 8 years. So he just doesn't have that breadth of knowledge that Bill Belichick did, where like, if you ask him a question about a wide receiver, you're kind of like, yeah, he might know what he's talking about, but it's really his first year concentrating on the offense, concentrating on that position. So there's just not that level of expertise. And like during Bill Belichick press conferences, he would always start off the Wednesday press conference going down the entire opposing team. He'd talk about Justin Herbert. He'd talk about the Chargers' third string running back. He'd talk about all the offensive linemen, all the weapons, go throughout the whole defense. Jerod Mayo tries to do that, but it's just like a lot more broad. He focuses on like one or two things. This week it was Derwin James. He loves Derwin James, but it's just not as precise as Bill Belichick was.
Doug, there's rumors now out there that I think recently somebody had to come out and say from the organization, oh yeah, Jerod Mayo's not on the hot seat. We're keeping him. But then now there's rumors that supposedly Mike Vrabel is interested in the Patriots job if it comes open. What are you kind of hearing from that aspect? I mean, does it seem like Jerod Mayo's job is safe? And especially with all the hiccups that they've had, I mean, going from Bill Belichick to Mike Vrabel last year, I thought would have softened the blow.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But you go to a guy that in Jerod Mayo that, I mean, we, like you just said, we have no clue. He's only been coaching for a little bit. Do you feel like there could be a possibility that they go to Mike, or do you feel like that the organization is behind Jerod?
I think they're behind him. I think that last week's close loss to the Bills definitely helped that. Like, let's say if last week the Patriots had been blown out like 50-14 or whatever it was, then I think that there would be legitimate questions heading into this week and then heading into week 18 about whether or not Jerod Mayo's job was safe. The fact that they were able to play it so close, the fact they were able to get out to an actual early lead against the Bills, a lot of those questions have kind of dissipated a little bit. But no, I mean, I do think that Vrabel would be interested in the job if it did come open. It just doesn't look like that's going to happen at this point. And I do think that they probably would have been a little bit more successful this year if Mike Vrabel was the head coach, just because he is more experienced. He probably would have brought along a lot better staff. But it does seem like the Patriots are going to give Mayo at least a second season. Certainly would not be surprised if there's some change in coordinators, though, because I don't know if you guys saw the clip during the game against the Cardinals. They actually showed ownership after it was a 5-yard loss by Antonio Gibson. And Robert Kraft is like, you can read his lips talking about offensive play calling. Jonathan Kraft, his son, who's the president of the team, is saying the play calling is terrible. That's what it looks like he's saying by the lip readers. So like, Alex Van Pelt certainly seems like he's on the hot seat as the offensive coordinator. DeMarcus Covington is a first-year defensive coordinator, and the defense last year was top 10 in EPA per play. This year, they're 30th. Like, they've taken a huge step backwards. they've lost some pieces. Some guys have been injured, but still really no excuse to be that bad. And Jerod Mayo is supposed to be a defensive head coach since he was a linebackers coach. So I do think there's going to be some changeover in staff, maybe in coordinators. But Mayo does seem like he's going to be safe for next year.
What do you think going into this weekend? What are some of the complications that you see with? Is that a Diet Coke?
It is a Diet Coke. Yep.
Oh, look
there
at
you go.
Dan, show him your can.
Flying the friendly skies here, my guy.
Hell yeah!
Trying to get Coca-Cola to sponsor us, dude.
There, I'll do my part.
There you go. There you go.
What do you see with this weekend? I know that they have some injuries. I think center is a hot spot. I know they're missing some other guys. Just what do you kind of see into this game this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think that stopping Herbert is going to be tough. They did a good job against Josh Allen last week, though. So I think that's at least a good first step.
Doug, he has a hurt elbow and a hurt hand. And I'm like,
Allen couldn't feel his hand for like 10 minutes of the game. So that certainly probably plays a big part. But no, they've got a decent secondary. Christian Gonzalez is good. I don't think he'll be matched up against Ladd McConkey in this game. I think that'll probably be either Jonathan Jones or Isaiah Bolden, something like that. So that's one area of concern. I think McConkey could certainly go off in this game. But yeah, the Patriots starting center, Ben Brown, who actually he signed from the Raiders practice squad on Wednesday of week 6. His first practice with the team was on Thursday on no sleep. And he started the game 3 days later. So, and he's been starting at center ever since. Like, wild story. He was actually the Patriots' best offensive lineman in that game as well, which first of all speaks to his ability to adjust so quickly, but also to how bad the rest of the offensive line is. So he's got a concussion. Looks like he's not going to play. So it's either going to be Cole Strange, who was the Patriots' 2022 first-round pick, who has yet to play on an offensive snap this year because he's coming back from a knee injury last year, or Lacita Smith, who was signed off the Packers practice squad. But, I mean, that offensive line has been in shambles all year. The tackles kind of like one game, the left tackle is the worst player on the line. Next game, the right tackle is the worst player on the line. So looks like this could be definitely a game where Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa could feast on the Patriots offensive line. And Drake Maye's going to have to get rid of the ball quickly in this one.
Do you have anything, Dan?
One thing I did want to ask, what do you think is the best way for the Chargers to attack this defense? Since like you said, their defense was top 10 and now they've dropped off into 30th. Do you think there's a position group that's a weak link? Do you think it's a particular player? Like what do you see on the defense that would be like the weakest link?
It's all over the place, honestly. Like the run defense has been pretty atrocious all year, which it's crazy because I think after week 1, Jerod Mayo was like really taking a victory lap after they beat the Bengals. And I hate to crap on him too much, but he's like, we'll always be able to run the ball. We'll always be able to run, stop the run and all these things. And it just has not come true to a large degree. And last week was another week where I think they were allowing 6 or 7 yards per carry. James Cook went on 2 big runs. So it's definitely big runs that the Patriots are allowing. Their front 7 has been pretty weak all year. Devon Godshaw should be better, but he's kind of the only guy on the line who can really stop the run. Christian Barmore is now back out for the season with blood clots. Their starting middle linebacker, Juwan Bentley, was out for the season after week 2. They've had Christian Ellis, who is primarily a special teamer, and Jelani Tavai filling in those roles, but they really have a hard time kind of setting the line, setting they're not nearly as experienced as Juwan Bentley is in that role. And then even at safety, Jabril Peppers missed last week. He's missed most of the season on the commissioner's exempt list, but now he's injured. Kyle Duggar's been dealing with an ankle injury all year that's really limited him. He's been missing a lot of tackles. So really the run defense as a whole. And then also they've had some trouble stopping tight ends as well. So those are the 2 big areas.
Well, that's an area that the Chargers are kind of lacking.
Yeah, lacking in
tight end.
Yeah. A little bit of both right there, just because, as you could tell, the offensive line is basically 2 tackles who you're like, okay, we're cooking with some gasoline. And then you head back to the wood stove, in with the inside 3. So that's been a problem. But, one thing, that I am curious about to ask you, your expertise, you think the fall off defensively has been injuries, or you think it's a little bit of, the inexperience? Because like you said, if a lot of these coordinators are first year with the first year head coach, that kind of, has to be tough for anybody because usually sorry, excuse me. Usually I would assume, first year head coach, you want to have experienced coordinators, you know what I mean, to kind of bring that to the staff and everything else. So if you don't mind me asking, what do you think has been like the biggest reason for the fall off defensive? Because, I'll even say this before, my bad, I know I'm kind of going on a tangent.
No,
I'll even say this in Belichick's, final years, even though they weren't very good, their defense was always, you were going to expect something pretty heavy hitting and everything else. So
yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that defense did a pretty good job of stopping the Chargers the last couple of times they played.
Yeah.
I know they won last year, but it was 6-0, obviously, like you said. But you know what, I would boil it down mostly to coaching, because as much as you can say that guys have been injured, guys have been out, in all, they've got a pretty talented defense. But you lose Bill Belichick as the head coach, and you lose Steve Belichick as your defensive play caller. And then you're left with Jerod Mayo, who was a linebackers coach last year, and their defensive coordinator is DeMarcus Covington, who a lot of people have noted that, like, usually a defensive line coach doesn't go from being a defensive line coach to a coordinator. You kind of stop off at either like a linebacker or safety or something, just to allow you to deal with some more groups. So I do think it's mostly the coaching and the inexperience of the coaching, and losing, like you said, like probably the best defensive head coach of all time in Bill Belichick.
Yeah,
and your defensive play caller. And like Jerod Mayo and Steve Belichick were really sharing the defensive coordinator roles from 2019 to 2023. But Mayo was the guy leading the meetings. Steve Belichick was the guy calling defensive plays. From 2019 to 2023, the Patriots were first in EPA per play on defense, like number one. They had the best by that metric. And like I said earlier, they're 30th now. So I think that's most of it. I will say that there are some excuses. You lose Juwan Bentley, who's your middle linebacker. That hurts. Jabril Peppers gets arrested for assault and drug charges, misses like, I think 8-9 weeks of the season. Then even since he's been back, he's been injured. Kyle Duggar dealing with the ankle injury. Christian Barmore missed most of the season with blood clots. Like, you're losing a lot of guys in there, but at the same time, like, there's enough startable, talented pieces where you shouldn't be 30th. I can understand dropping off from like 8th to 20th, 8th to 15th, something like that.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be dropping all the way down to the bottom of the league.
Well, Doug, the drama with Matthew Judon earlier this year, just what was that? How big of a hit was that for the locker room, especially with all the stuff that was going on?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think ultimately the Patriots played it pretty smart. Elliott Wolf has certainly had some misses this offseason or last offseason in free agency in the draft, but he handled that situation pretty well by trading him to the Falcons for a 3rd-round pick, because Judon really hasn't been that great for the Falcons this season. And Judon missed most of last season with an injury as well, but he was a defensive leader. He was a big vocal leader in that locker room. So I think that certainly hurts. The other thing too, is that I keep mentioning him, Juwan Bentley, not exactly a household name, but he is a defensive captain. He was the biggest vocal leader on defense. So that hurts a lot. And on offense, David Andrews got lost for the season, I think around the same time. It was either week 2 or 3 with a shoulder injury. And he is like the offensive captain. He's the guy who's won multiple Super Bowls. He's the real like offensive leader. So you lose your offensive leader, you lose your defensive leader, you lose Bill Belichick, both as a head coach and in the front office. It's just, there's kind of a leadership void on the Patriots right now. And that's another one of the big reasons why they're heading in this game 3-12.
And the biggest thing is too, oh, my bad.
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and the biggest thing too, you lost that, Husky, who was the best GM in the league, apparently, sitting up there at the computer and all that stuff. That was
I know you lose Nike the dog. I know he's the guy.
I couldn't think of the name. Yeah,
I forgot that was 2020. Actually, he had a pretty decent draft that year. They got Michael Wenu, they got Anthony Jennings, Josh Uche, Kyle Duggar. So that's a big loss as well for sure.
Doug, are you excited to cover Travis Hunter next year?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, that'll be fun. I mean, honestly, I don't know what he like. It's an interesting discussion because, like, is he a full-time cornerback who moonlights at wide receiver? Is he a full-time wide receiver who plays in like dime defense? I think it's almost easier to be a starting cornerback who's kind of a gadget player on offense.
That's what
vice versa.
Heard is going to be his best.
But at the same time, it's like whoever drafts him, you kind of want to put him in where you need him the most. And if it's the Patriots, you probably need him more at wide receiver than you do at cornerback.
Him and Christian Gonzalez would be nasty, though.
It really would. It would be nasty, but at the same time, Drake May might be like, "Can we get this guy on offense? Can I?"
Well, they're gonna get T. Higgins. They're gonna get T. Higgins in free agency.
You get T. Higgins, and maybe you could use Travis Hunter on third down on offense.
Some teams are gonna offer T 20 to 25. The Patriots, I think, are gonna offer him 30.
Yeah. I mean, they need to, and they've got the most cap space in the NFL. Like, if any team can afford it, it's them. Yeah. And they really can't come out of this next offseason being like, oh, well, we've still got $50-60 million or whatever it is. Like, they basically have to use every penny just honestly to appease the fan base at this point.
Yeah. Like, there you go. Operating in the green, baby, always.
Exactly.
It's been 23 minutes. Doug, we appreciate you. Dan, go ahead and ask him what you want to ask him.
Oh, I do. I want to ask you, seriously. I've been kind of waiting for this part of it because I have so many questions. Like, I'll start first going back a little bit and then kind of coming back to the present. But, my biggest thing, because, I mean, you've been there. So, like, with the dynasty and all that, like, I just don't buy the whole Bill Belichick is, the Antichrist and everything else. And he just was, he was just, the bad guy on the team. Everybody, jumped into closets to avoid him in the hallway or whatever. Like, you kind of, because, like, I'm a big believer in the sense that, like, guys like him, guys like Jordan, guys like Kobe, like those guys who they call assholes, it's not that they're I shouldn't say that. How can I say it? More driven. Sorry, driven. I just think they have a drive that just is firing on all cylinders at all times. Like, there's no break. You know what I mean?
I think I agree with you for the most part. Like, I think that it's possible that Bill could have been more personable in the hallway to people. Like, 100%. But in the grand scheme of things, like, he won 6 Super Bowls. So it's there's some give and take there. You accept the fact that he's maybe not the most friendly, personable guy when he can lead you to that extent. I think that the reason why he wasn't as personable, like, everything was done for a reason, if he thought that, and he's like, I do really genuinely think that he was just always in his mind, always thinking about the opponent, thinking about the way that he could, like, exploit their weaknesses, all these different things. And I mean, I think that the picture that they painted of him in the Dynasty documentary and how they've kind of done him dirty after the season, I do think that a lot of those things are unfair. And the Patriots fan base certainly agrees with that as well, because at this point, I think that the grand majority of them are still probably more Team Belichick than Team Patriots at this point. And it certainly hurts that that's 5 years after a lot of them were Team Brady over Team Patriots after that one as well. So they've certainly taken a lot of L's over the last 5 years or something. We'll see how this new regime does. I know the Patriots fans are really happy about Drake Maye, but for Bill Belichick, like, he certainly was a certain way, and I never got to know him very well based on how he was with the media, but like I said, he won 6 Super Bowls, took them to 9, I think, or 8.
They had 20 years of dominance.
Yep.
Like, he's not going to be Mr. Rogers. You know what I mean? Like, no one expects him to be. Like, my God, what are we even talking about? Personally, me being on the West Coast and a Charger fan, like, that to me was crazy. Because I'm like, I respect the guy, even though, obviously, how many Super Bowls did he rob from? Pick any team on the AFC, basically, or the NFC. How many Super Bowls didn't he rob from a lot of people? But, the way they portrayed him, and then they kind of, even at the, Tom Brady Rose, kind of the same thing. And I was like, dude, like, stop with the melodrama. Like, especially when Kraft was like, oh, Tommy was in my office crying, and like it's his grandson or something. I'm like, dude, just take it easy. Like, I thought that was a little extra to me. But moving forward kind of now, but you're right, though. They did kind of mishandle both exits between Brady and Belichick. That's kind of crazy. But, like, I'm really curious. Again, you covered him for, however many years you've been covering the team. But, I'm curious to, kind of wonder, how successful do you think he's going to be at, now that he's in North Carolina in college? And also, what adjustments do you think he's going to make, if he makes any? Because, I mean, we all know Bill Belichick. He's a dog, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he's not going to change for some, snot-nosed 18-year-old or whatever else if he didn't change for what possibly, arguably, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time in the league. So,
no, for sure. I mean, I think that he almost does. he's gonna have to change a little bit because you're already seeing
Yeah, you
like
have to.
what they had, the 4-star quarterback recruit who came to the UNC basketball game with Bill, and there's like, the photo shoot with those guys are like
Yeah.
arm in arm after like that's not necessarily something that you would see from him after they drafted a player or something like that, So I think that he does have to be a little bit kinder to these players. Otherwise, they're going to transfer. Like these guys aren't on contract. So you do have to be a little bit different. I think he'll be a great coach. I think that he'll probably bring UNC to relevancy. I am curious to see how long he sticks around. Like if the Cowboys or Raiders or some other team comes calling after the 2025 season, I don't think he would hesitate to go back to the NFL. I think that this is a good opportunity for him to have a job, like have a good job, do what he wants to do, but then also be available to go over to the NFL if it comes down to it, rather than spending another year in the media and hoping that an NFL team calls him, because I just don't think you want to do that again. But the one thing I am curious about, I know that scouting is a little bit different in college, but Bill was already a guy who kind of struggled to scout college players and project them into the NFL. I'm really curious to see how he does scouting high school players and projecting them to college, because that seems even more difficult to me. I know that it's
100%.
maybe a little bit easier with the whole like 4 or 5-star recruit, all that kind of stuff. And he can pull from the transfer portal, which certainly helps. But he's got to have a great scouting staff. He's got to rely on those guys. I know his first hire was Mike Lombardi. I'm not sure how he'll do in that GM role. I don't even know what a college GM.
Oh, exactly. I thought the same thing. Yeah. I was like, what?
I know. And talk about a guy who's like, Mike Lombardi has no experience in the college game. So
I know. Yeah.
I know they want to bring that NFL culture and all that stuff, but I don't know. I mean, we'll see how it goes. I do think that he's reportedly going to bring around Steve Belichick. My Washington Huskies lose Steve Belichick, but he's going to go over to UNC. I think he'll do a good job there. We'll see who he gets as an offensive coordinator, all these things, but he's still a great coach. And I think he's going to do a good job, especially competing against some of those ACC coaches. I think that will be his biggest, mismatch, is just that he is such a great, experienced head coach who's going to be ready for everything that these teams can throw at him.
Dan, he's become Two-Faced now with the Sun. I know. He can't fight it off anymore.
I know. It's
ask your final question. Doug's ready for it. I know what you want to ask him.
About the girlfriend? No, I don't want to put him on the hot spot anyway.
No, I think
I'm in good shape now with the Sun, by the way. I am fighting it. Yeah.
Doug, are you okay if he asks you something wacky or no?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
I thought it was hilarious. I saw a meme. All right, I'll bring in my meme lore. That's what I do. I'm a meme guy. I saw a meme that was hilarious. That was like, all these people making fun of her saying Belichick's doing this to get his son a head coaching gig. You guys are not seeing the big picture. He's trying to get his girlfriend into grad school for free. And I thought that was hilarious. I seriously wonder, like, just, obviously I don't know Belichick also, but just wondering how he plays like 4D chess. Maybe he got with the 24-year-old to say, can I appeal to these people? Can I recruit them eventually if I go into college?
I mean, his kids aren't college age anymore, so he's got to relate to them somehow. So now,
exactly.
He's got the young girlfriend. She can introduce him to all the social media and memes and all those things.
The Insta face.
Exactly.
Now
he's on some of those, but
that was hilarious. One thing I did want to say, I agree with you though. Like, this is a perfect way to continue keeping his name relevant in the football world, like a tryout. Like, I said on the show at the start of this season, I was like, I just don't understand, the Raiders, the Titans, some of these guys, you pass up on one of the greatest coaches, if not the greatest coach of all time, Pete Carroll and Mike Vrabel, and look how their seasons are going. Like, I think 100% one of these guys, it's just a matter of time, are going to take a chance on them, because I personally just didn't understand, like, how you're going to pass up, first off, 2 legends in Pete Carroll and Bill Belichick, and then obviously Mike Vrabel, who's up and coming, who's been doing a good job. So I agree with you right there. I was mind blown right there.
Oh yeah, I mean, the Titans season, like you said, that's not working out. Panthers, we'll see how that goes, but they're not working out. It's like Falcons have been a little bit better than the other teams, but it was wild to me that every team, 7 teams passed over Bill Belichick last year. And now, like, obviously he kind of saw the writing on the wall this year too, that he probably wasn't going to get a job. He was reportedly reaching out to the Jets, which was
That's
shocking.
hilarious to me.
Yeah,
That's hilarious to me. Yeah.
He wouldn't even go in the Jets locker room when they did like a 2 Bills documentary on him and Parcells, and he was like, "No, I won't even go in there." Like he would always fire shots at the Jets. So I think that showed how badly he wanted an NFL job, and it probably just wasn't coming. So yeah, he can do this for a year, maybe a 2. We'll see what happens.
I just hope he wins a natty. I would love that, just to stick it to everybody.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, with the playoffs now, like
Yeah.
if they win the ACC, then obviously they get
all you need is a chance.
So it's it'll be fun.
Doug, two final questions for me. Again, we appreciate you so much for jumping on with us. What is the national perspective, or like you have a national like bird's eye view to all this? What is the perception of Jim Harbaugh returning, him being with the Chargers, and now basically they're one step away from making the playoffs?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's all positive. Like it's been, I think that he's doing what a lot of people expected him to do with the Chargers, like bring them back, get the best out of Justin Herbert. I know they're not necessarily passing the ball as much as they usually do, but I think he's using him correctly. I think that at least for the Patriots, like they really respect the Chargers run game as well. It's a well-coached team. It's an experienced head coach. And for me, it's just great to see him back in the NFL because I do think he is a great coach. I think he's deserved to be back in there. So I think that's the view that I'm seeing. I am kind of curious for you guys. I'll ask you guys a question too.
Yeah.
So Gus Edwards is out for this game. J.K. Dobbins, is he going to play? If not, is it going to be Vidal? Who's going to be at running back for the Chargers?
It seems like it's going to be geared towards. Now, I'm not allowed to speak about injuries that are not my own. I'm not qualified, but it does seem like it's going to be J.K. They wouldn't have done the Gus Edwards thing if J.K. isn't ready to go. I personally don't think, because Hassan Haskins, he had a great play on last Thursday.
Yeah, that's about it.
But before that, the other time that they had given him the rock, he fumbled against the Falcons. And Kimani Vidal is a guy that I think if they use him as a third back, he'd add some juice. The only problem is he doesn't play special teams the way Hassan's good on special teams. Yeah. So they usually if it's JK, Gus, and Hassan, those are the three guys, and Kimani sits and doesn't play. But I think if they use all three, they could be special with all three of them. But I think if with Gus not playing, that just means that JK is ready to go, which probably I think it was kind of smart that they kind of put him on IR for the 4 weeks, let him rest up, get ready for this playoff run, because they're starting to get healthy right now with the playoffs right around the corner. And I feel like if they do beat the Patriots on Saturday, next week we'll either see a limited one drive from Herbert and other guys, or one quarter, and then that's it. Because we all know what happened 2 years ago when Mike.
Don't even say it. Don't even say it. They did that shit to him 2 years in a row. Don't even say it. Brutal. I cannot believe wide receiver screens to a 6'5", 50-50 ball type of guy. It's not like he has. Doug, it's not like he has damn wheels. He's not Tyreek Hill. They're trying to get him killed out here 2 years ago. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Doug, final one for me. Favorite Bill Belichick story?
Oh, man. There was he didn't do this very often, but I had asked some question about like why his in-season additions wound up better than like the off-season additions. It was some year where like a lot of their free agent signings hadn't been doing well, but a lot of the guys that they acquired in season had been playing well. And he gave a decent answer to it, but not a lot. He didn't say a lot about it. But then after that, the PR guy for the Patriots, Stacey James, came back to my cubicle at the time, and he was like, "Oh, Bill wants to talk to you out in the hall." And so then he went for like 20 more minutes on it, just like talking about why they did this, why they made this move, why this guy didn't work out, how they could have traded this guy, didn't do this. So really cool to just kind of, hear from him for a really long time, get that one-on-one. It was all like off the record at the time and everything like that, but it was still really cool that he took the time out when he could have been in meetings with players or, just off by himself to take that time to do that. So that was really great. He sent a kind message, after the season, which was good. And I didn't have a lot of those individual times with Bill Belichick just because no one really did on the beat. He didn't want to get too close to anyone, but it was really cool for him to do that. And it was also just one other interesting thing. Like sometimes he would send out Christmas cards during the holiday season too. Like it wasn't always. I don't know if it was depending on like.
I know. I was about to say.
how well the season was going, like how well the media treated him. I don't know what the rhyme or reason was, but it was always cool to like, go to your mailbox and see like one Patriot Place on it and be like, oh man, we got the Bill Belichick Christmas card this year. So that was always cool as well. I think I've saved all of those because
I would.
Oh,
just say like,
yeah.
best to you or like, and it was really cool to get those.
Dude, you must feel like Charlie Bucket when you get those. Like you got the golden ticket. Like it's
I know, right?
It's one of those moments. Doug, I can't wait to see you having to go down to UNC to go do a sit down with him and Lombardi and everybody. And Doug, we have homework for you. Yes. We need you to figure out what a GM does in college football.
Exactly.
You let us
absolutely.
know, and then you'll jump back on. But again, we appreciate. This is our guy, Doug Kyed. Follow him on Instagram, on Twitter. He is the best. Doug, thank you so much. We'll definitely have you on further down the line. We talked about it before we jumped on here, but we can't wait to have you back on. And again, thank you so much for jumping on with us.
Absolutely, Fernando, Dan. It's always a pleasure. Talk to you guys later.
See you later, Doug. Thank you.
See you later.